You feel tired, don't you? Not from too much work, but from yourself. You feel like something inside you is empty. It's like you used to have motivation, but now you just want to be calm. But this calmness isn't peace, it's a deep numbness. It's a strange feeling where your brain is off, but your mind is full of noise. And more people than you think feel this way nowadays, not because the world has gotten harder, but because our brains weren't designed to have such easy access to pleasure. Hi, I'm Raiden, and this is the Peakpages channel. Today, we're going to dive into a really strange and unusual topic that's affecting almost everyone. It's called the porn trap, a topic that rarely gets talked about. Let's get right to it. No extra talk. In today's world, you can see any kind of image in just a few seconds, experience any fantasy without any effort, without any risk. Your brain just gets dopamine without doing anything, and that's what we call the dopamine trap. But there's a particular part of this trap that's the most dangerous of all. A part that mostly affects men, a part that empties men from the inside. It's called the porn trap. The issue isn't just about one act. It's about a system that trains your brain to seek rewards without effort. A cycle of instant pleasure that gradually destroys not just you, but the very structure of your brain. Andrew Huberman, a neuroscientist at Stanford University, has a key quote: "When your brain learns to get dopamine without effort, nothing real remains valuable." That means your brain learns it can feel like a winner without any hassle. And when that happens, why would it bother to try anymore? Why should you go to the gym, study, grow, or even learn anything when you can get that feeling of reward in just a few seconds with just a few clicks? That's exactly where the trap begins. It's a subtle, silent trap, but it's destructive. In the moment, it doesn't feel bad at all, but little by little, it takes away your focus, kills your motivation, and destroys your self-esteem. And you don't even realize why. You don't even realize how it happened. Huberman says, exposure to visual stimuli causes the brain to lose its baseline dopamine, and the result is a sense of aimlessness, mental fatigue, and a hidden depression. When the brain gets used to instant gratification, it starts to resist anything that requires effort, and that's when things that used to excite you, like learning, working, or exercising, now feel completely meaningless to you. You want to feel alive again, but your brain has learned to only give you that feeling through artificial stimulation. And that's exactly what we've come to call the modern apathy of a generation that no longer fights, because their brain doesn't see a reason to bother. Let's be honest with ourselves. The real enemy isn't reality or exhaustion. It's comfort. The day your brain learns to feel satisfied with the least amount of effort. Porn teaches your brain exactly that. Feeling satisfied without effort. Feeling in control without actually growing, feeling love without even talking to another human being. And that's the most dangerous thing on earth, because gradually the brain stops distinguishing between reality and fantasy. Let me tell you a scientific fact. When you use stimulating content, your brain produces dopamine, but this time, way more than normal. As Huberman explains, high dopamine levels actually cause dopamine to drop afterward. That means after that short-lived high, you fall into a deep valley of numbness. You feel guilty, tired, aimless, and full of regret. You start thinking you're nothing, and your brain, trying to escape that feeling, looks for another stimulant. An endless cycle a dirty loop. Jordan Peterson says anything that gives you instant pleasure without effort will get its revenge on you in the long run. And that sentence is the most accurate definition of this trap. Porn is like borrowing happiness from your future, an artificial pleasure that you feel in the moment, but you pay for it with your motivation, focus, and self-confidence. But let's be honest, this isn't just about being an addict, it's about conditioning. Your brain gets trained to always look for quick pleasure, and when you face something difficult, you get tired right away. That's exactly why so many people can't stick to a long-term goal, because their brains are only wired for instant rewards. It's really interesting. The more we look into it, the more we see that porn affects every part of a person's life. Now, a main question comes up. How can someone break out of this dirty cycle? How can you set yourself free? First, you need to understand that this isn't a moral battle or even a neurological one. You're fighting with your brain, not your desires. And if your brain has been trained for years to crave instant rewards, it needs to be retrained to understand that for real rewards, you actually have to wait. It's really not easy, but it's absolutely necessary. This is exactly where real strength is built. The first step is to understand what the problem is, not to blame yourself. Like, oh, I watched porn again, or oh, I can't control myself. It's not about any of that. Instead, you need to understand why your mind is drawn into this trap. Huberman says that awareness is the first stage of neural rewiring. When you just stop the behavior, your brain goes into a state of shock. But when you understand the reason why this is happening, you create a new pathway. That means you need to know exactly what triggers your mind at every moment. What is it that makes you reach for your phone, go online, and start scrolling? Is it boredom? Is it because you're alone and no one is around? Is it stress? Or have you just gotten used to it? Until you recognize the trigger, you can't control it. And awareness is the very first step to regaining your inner control. One of the things you can do is write. Writing helps. Every time you feel the urge, write down when it happens, where, why did it happen? And after a few days of writing, you'll notice that your mind follows a certain pattern, a specific routine, and that's the moment your eyes open and you start to regain control. The second step is to cut off artificial rewards. We shouldn't make a mistake here. Detox means returning to balance, not fighting your desires. The human brain needs pleasure, but when it only gets it from one source, the other pathways shut down. Detox means teaching your brain to get dopamine from natural things again, like exercising, reading, laughing, human connection, even from being challenged, as Peterson says. He says you can't just remove something, you have to replace it with something better. In other words, just quitting porn isn't enough. You have to fill that space with meaning. Otherwise, your brain will go back at any cost. Real detox is returning to the reality of life, a reality that has become very distant from us. And that reality is nothing but experiencing hardships, feeling tired, enjoying your growth. And we all know that growth only comes through pain. Maybe a lot of people have experienced that it's only when they're in pain, only when they're struggling. And as we say ourselves, when they're being pushed to their limits, that's when they feel alive. That pain is the very pain that produces healthy dopamine. Now we get to a tough part. Your brain has practiced the path of instant reward thousands of times. But now you have to build a new path. The path of reward through effort. When you tie the reward to the action itself, your brain starts to enjoy the process. For example, if you're working out, don't just wait for the results or think about how your body looks. Get your pleasure from actually doing the workout itself. This very mechanism is what helps your brain become healthy again. To reprogram yourself, you need a few tools. The first is a fixed routine. Every day at a specific time. Do certain activities like studying, exercising, or focusing and thinking. Stability protects your brain. The second tool is a real substitute. Your brain wants dopamine, so give it dopamine, but not from porn. Dopamine that you get even with a little bit of effort, like taking a cold shower, exercising, or even meditating. Do it. Man, just listen to some good music. Get up and go out into nature. If you have a mountain or a forest near your house, or anything like that, go spend half an hour there every day. Even that gives you dopamine. That's the third thing. Conscious reward. When you get through a day without relapsing, praise yourself. You did it. You managed to get through a day without bringing in that filth. This is how you rebuild the connection between pleasure and effort. Kobe Bryant style. He had a rule that showed exactly this. He said, if one day I'm tired but I still keep practicing, I want my brain to learn that pleasure comes from not giving up, not from running away. This mindset is what made his mind unbeatable. You weren't born to be a slave to dopamine. You're here to train your mind to be honest with your inner world, to choose to get real pleasure from effort, not from running away. Every time you resist your temptations, you create a new neural connection. Every time you choose hardship, your brain becomes stronger, more focused, and healthier. One day, you'll reach a point where your mind is clear again and you have focus. That's when the feeling of being alive comes back to you. That's when you realize that true peace doesn't come from inactivity. It comes from self-control. And that's when you understand that real peace doesn't come from doing nothing. It comes from self-control. True freedom means being able to say no, even to yourself. This trap has ensnared millions upon millions of people. But only those become free who realize that the pain of self-control is far more sacred than the pleasure of giving in. So, if today you're feeling tired or aimless, remind yourself it's just a sign. A sign that it's time. A sign that your mind is thirsty for reality, a thirst that can only be quenched with meaning, with purpose, and with effort. You can come back not to the past, but to your true self, to that version of you that still has hope, that still wants to become stronger, and still believes it can break free from this trap. Because you're not meant to run away. You're not meant to fade away. You're meant to choose again and return to life. And this time, I'm Raiden, and this is the Peak Pages channel. Thanks for watching until the end. Goodbye.